we talk about Antifa, unfortunately, winning in Portland. A couple of members of Antifa were on trial, folks, for the brutal beating they laid out on journalist Andy Ngo. And, well, what can be said? Antifa was on their very worst behavior in Portland. They were intimidating the jury. They were vandalizing cars that belong to certain mainstream non-mainstream media journalists, independent journalists, such as our former colleague, Katie Davis-Court. And you know what? The moral of the story is, yes, might makes right. They were found not guilty or not liable in that attack. Sheila, what are your thoughts? Did the jury get it right, or was this, I don't know, the results of clear intimidation? That's what I think.
I think it's a bit of both. I think this is, I was going to say a Crown prosecutor. My Canadian parlance keeps creeping in, but the prosecutor in this, obviously, you're dealing with a very Democrat state, so you don't have a lot of will to prosecute this. And this is like a civil case. So that's, so the prosecutor, I mean, this wasn't going back. Not a lot of criminal charges came from the violence. So you're dealing with prosecutors who are just allowing lawlessness. And then, so Andy tries to deal with this civilly. And I think particularly one of these people here is pretty identifiable. And so Andy tries to pursue this. And you're in a state where it's almost uniformly Democrat. And then you have Antifa in the courtroom every day, intimidating the jury, it sounds like, every single day. And we know that our former colleague, Katie Davis-Court, who's now working for the Post Millennial, her car was destroyed, trashed. She was parked near the courthouse. And this is the gall of these people. You can't even be a journalist covering this stuff, and you will have violence committed against you. So you can't even be a journalist covering the violence committed against other journalists. And you're not safe to sit in a courtroom, because this is what happened to her car when she came outside. They took, like all of her personal effects from inside the car. So they have all of her identification and all those things. Katie's in for a wild ride this next little bit with what they're going to do with that. This is absolutely appalling. And what I find to be the most disgusting thing, if I recall correctly, Andy Ngo was hospitalized for this. He spent time in the hospital for how he was physically attacked that day. And this is how the Daily Beast writes up the article. This is somebody who spent time in the hospital for the beating he got at the hands of a mob that's never been truly held accountable. So he had to do this civilly. He was struck in the face with, they put concrete in milkshakes and then they throw them. And I think he received a skull fracture, if I recall correctly. Like, he was severely harmed. He's lucky he wasn't killed, to be honest with you. Not as though these people care about anybody's ability to live their lives or safety. This is how the Daily Beast writes it up. Activists cleared, not Antifa, activists cleared after right-wing troll Andy Ngo accuses them of assault.
Wow.
Revolting.
Unbelievable.
Revolting.
But, that's just some insignificant leftist rag, Sheila. My concern is with the judge. I've been in Canadian courtrooms where, I mean, if someone is glaring or smiling or winking at somebody, you're going to get rebuked. You're going to get a warning. Cut it out, or else you're out of my courtroom. So that leads me to the question, Sheila. Was this judge just absolutely incompetent? Or was the judge scared? Or is judge also on Team Antifa? This is just totally, a hometown game, if you will, with a hometown ref. Because I don't know why that was tolerated in a court of law. I know it's the same in the U.S. You can't intimidate people, even with hand gestures, winking, smiles, glares, you name it. So why wasn't this enforced? That's what I ask.
Well, and even even the bailiffs in the courtroom. Like, for example, I've been in courtrooms reporting where the other side has showed up, like supporters of the other side, and they glare at me and they try to intimidate me. And I'm just there typing away, trying to do my job, trying to pay attention to what's happening. And I've had bailiffs come up during a break in court or even during court and say, like, hey, are you okay? Like, that person, we've noticed, because it's their job to pay attention to what's happening in the courtroom. And they'll say, like, hey, are you okay? Like, that person is obviously glaring at you. Do you want us to remove them? And I just say, like, I'm too busy working to care about how they are trying to scare me in a courtroom. But it's different when you're the jury on a case where mob violence has happened and journalists are being having their stuff destroyed outside. That's different. You know, like if I felt intimidated, sure, I could grab a bailiff and say, hey, can you just walk me to my car or whatever. But they are paying attention to the courtroom. That's their job, to look for outbursts and violence in the courtroom. Where were they on this?
Yeah. This is a miscarriage of justice, Sheila. Forget about the verdict. Just for what they allowed during the trial, it is despicable. It is beyond the pale. And, I guess it's up to anyone whether they want to continue. That I'm talking about tax-paying, law-abiding, patriotic citizens to live in Portland. That was once a beautiful city. It is the proverbial you-know-what hole. And you see businesses fleeing Portland, Sheila. Why do I have my merchandise being robbed blindly? Why am I putting my life on the line, especially if the cops aren't going to come because they're political puppet masters? Well, they're all in on Team Antifa too. It's one big group, isn't it? Antifa is the, I guess, the armed militia, if you will, of the Democrats. And as far as the, the defense attorneys, the politicians, the mayor, well, that's just the legislative branch of Antifa. That's how I look at it, because when you see this preponderance of evidence being presented and, there's no conviction, absolutely appalling. And look at this video. Look at this video as I'm talking.
Where the heck are the cops? This is like, that's why I call Portland like the Antifa caliphate, because they are in charge. This is like their spiritual mecca where they are in charge. They run the show. They get to do whatever they want. They are in charge of all the institutions, academia, policing, the legislative branch. They are in charge. This is their caliphate. And I can't believe this is happening in the United States.
Neither can I, but it's a part of the United States that really doesn't resemble the United States anymore. You nailed it. Where are the cops? What, they were maybe told to stand down? Is that it? Or they just don't have it in them to get their hands dirty by, protecting somebody's First Amendment rights? Absolutely despicable. So that was just a sham as far as I'm concerned, Sheila, what happened in Portland. And I don't know, do we have any information if this can be appealed or not?
I'm not sure what the next steps are. I imagine you just can't let this lie. This was a very expensive proposition for Andy Ngo. He's just a regular person. He's a journalist. I don't know exactly what Post Millennial is doing for him. But I'm sure if he wants to appeal this or further pursue this, I'm sure there's public will to help him there. That's a clip from something we call Rebel News Daily. It's our daily live stream hosted by my friend David Menzies, but the show also includes a rotating cast of hosts and special guests, including me. It's a great way for us to talk about the news of the day as the news is happening in an unscripted fashion, and it's an awesome way for you to interact with us as well. We stream every weekday, 1 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Mountain, wherever you find Rebel News. See you there.